Hey, Amber, welcome to the His and Her Money
Hello,
Show.
Amber.
Hi, how are you all doing?
Doing well. Super glad to have you here with us because you've done an amazing thing and you have paid off your debt and you're sitting here debt free today. And we know that people can't wait to hear exactly how you were able to do such an incredible thing. But before we start talking about what you did, can you just take a moment and say hello to everybody that's tuned in and let them know what you are all about?
Sure. My name is Amber Guyton. I am 32 years old, originally from South Carolina, currently in San Antonio, Texas. I have bachelor's in advertising, MBA in marketing, and I currently work for a bank in product management and marketing. I also have an interior design business that I started about 3 years ago on the side called Blessed Little Bungalow. And around that time, I decided it's time to kick debt's butt and no longer live in that way that I was living before.
Love it. So let's talk about your debt. Tell everybody, how much debt did you have? How long did it take you to pay it off? And what type of debt was it?
Sure. So I had about $89,000 of debt. The first biggest chunk was my student loans. That was about 38,000, 39,000, and actually it originated, of course, 10 years before that at about 20,000. So you can only imagine how much I was paying before that, which was pretty much nothing. And then I also had a car loan. So my car was about 14,000, and then everything else was split up amongst credit cards and little credit card debt.
And how long did it take you to pay it off?
25 months.
Wow, 25 months.
Wow.
That's good stuff. All right, we got to dig in. We got to know what's happening.
Yep.
But here's what I want to know. You were accustomed to debt because you had various different forms that you just named. So it's not like you were adverse to debt at one point in your life, but something clicked, something changed. And as you said, you stated earlier, you realized that you needed to kick debt to the curb. Talk to us about what sparked the thought in your mind to say, I need to do that. I don't need to live like this. I don't need to be having these debt payments. I need to get rid of it.
Sure. So that goes back to my childhood. My mom and my parents divorced when I was about 4, and my mom raised my older sister and I. We lived next door to our grandparents, and honestly, I had a great childhood. We definitely, were lower middle class, but never felt like I missed out on anything. But when we would go back to school shopping or anything like that, my mom would pull out a credit card. So I just felt like, that was normal, right? And other family members did the same. And when I listen to podcasts or read books about people talking about how they teach their children about money, I think about what I learned about money as a child. And really, my grandfather would always tell us 2 things. One, I still don't quite understand, and the other, I understand fully now. But the first one was, don't take any wooden nickels, whatever that means. And then the second one, never spend your last dollar. And so I always felt like, okay, as long as I don't spend everything, I'm doing the right thing, right? If I save a little bit of money, then I'll be fine. Which is the complete opposite of what I know now, which is to pay yourself first and to truly look at savings as a tool that's going to help you build wealth in the future. That's something that the building wealth concept is something that I didn't really learn and appreciate until my late 20s, early 30s. So to answer your question about what geared me up to change my spending habits, well, throughout college, store credit cards, anything like you want something, you get a credit card, you pay it back later. Like that's how this credit and debt thing works. And I had plenty of scholarships in undergrad, but didn't have enough money to pay for my last 2 years of school. So I accumulated that credit, that student loan debt at the end of my undergrad. Fortunately, when I went back to grad school and graduated at 28, with my MBA, one of my employers paid for that degree, so I didn't have to worry about that debt. But once I moved to San Antonio, I took a new job with a great company after leaving leaving Atlanta where I was living before, and I was making twice as much money. You know, that's that dream, right? Millennial, you go back to school, you make this great six-figure salary, and you've made it, right? But I realized, like, you're making twice as much money and you have nothing to show for it. You are continuing the same behavior and bad spending habits. And it just doesn't make sense to constantly have that financial stress of where is the next payment for this bill coming from because you spent all your money. And one thing that Dave Ramsey says is that you can't out earn your stupid, which sounds pretty offensive when you think about it. But then you're like, oh yeah, that's stupid. That was me. So, so I, speaking of Dave Ramsey, started listening to him, listening to his podcast every day, and started listening to you all and Paychecks and Balances, so many different financial, personal finance podcasts. Stopped listening to music in the car and at home and started listening to a podcast that would help me better my finances. And so I wrote down all of my debt and I said, okay, this is how much I make each month, every 2 weeks. What can I do? How can I divvy this income and pay and make changes to my poor behavior to pay this off as soon as possible? And so one step at a time, paid off credit card for my company. I work for USAA. We're very big on personal finance, and teaching, good money habits to our members, which are mainly military members, members of the military and their families. And so I learned a lot just from my employer as well. If you surround yourself with people that are preaching and teaching the right things, then you're bound to pick up on some of that. So between that and our annual bonuses we got each year, as well as the side hustle that I started, interior design, every extra dime I had, I threw at the debt. And in 25 months, it was all gone.
It's time to get your life insurance together with Legal & General America. As one of the nation's leaders in low-cost, high-quality life insurance to over 1.3 million families, we know how to protect you. For nearly 7 decades, we've been the first and only carrier to add 10 more years of security to our policies for a total of 40 years of life insurance coverage. If you need basic protection until retirement, that deal is perfect. Legal & General America makes understanding and applying for life insurance easy. Our agents are standing by to help you determine the best coverage to fit your family's needs. Visit hisandhermoney.com/LGA to get started on your journey toward financial wellness.
First, I want to go back to what your grandfather said. I think this is going to be very, very fun because I was sitting here thinking, never take wooden nickels. What do you think that is?
I don't know.
Like, guess. I'm sure somebody's probably going to leave a comment and say this means da-da-da-da. But for me,
leave a comment if you think wooden nickels is all about.
What came to my mind was like, not all money is good money. And even though it's called a nickel, it's wooden. So I think of maybe
has no value.
Has no value. I think of maybe credit cards or
auto loan debt.
Yeah. So I think that he was probably teaching you back then, probably, even though it may say it's a nickel, it's a wooden nickel. Don't take it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
looks like a nickel, but it actually has no value because what it's made, the substance of it.
Yeah. You can't redeem it for anything.
Preaching.
Yeah. I love it. So great job, Granddad. But I thought that was fun. My wheels were turning. I like what you said, though. You surrounded yourself with knowledge. I was teaching a class this weekend. I had to speak at a women's conference, and that was something that we preach and that I also taught and told them as well too. Surround yourself with information and knowledge. When you're in the car, listen to podcasts, or when you're at home, watch videos. In the beginning of our marriage, when I inherited the debt into the marriage, and you and I decided that we were going to come together, we were going to be one. That's what we did. We surrounded ourselves with so much information that it almost became like a game to us. It was very, very exciting. We wanted to learn more. Then we wanted to apply what we learned. So I love that you said that. Now, my question to you is, did you first receive, like, did you listen to a podcast and maybe it got your wheels turning? Like, what was it? What was that defining moment? I heard your childhood and things like that and what you saw, but what was that defining moment when you were like, no, I'm going to take this serious and I'm going to do it?
I think that one thing that a lot of people talk about when it comes to paying off debt or achieving any goal is identify your why. And for me, my why is my family. Breaking generational curses of debt, understanding that, I'm single, I don't have any children, but I have 2 nephews and a niece from my older sister. And if something, God forbid, happens to my sister and brother-in-law, or they fall on hard times, like, I want to be in the position that I can help them pay for college. I want to be in the position where I can pay off my mother's mortgage and she have no more debt and no more worries through her retirement. I want to be that difference maker in those around me. I want to be able to just pick up and say, you know what, I'm going to take a sabbatical and I'm going to Taiwan for 7 months and not have to think twice about it. And that type of freedom, and everyone defines financial freedom differently and retirement differently, but that's what really drove me. And if I can make small changes in the short term to earn that long-term, those long-term achievements and goals, then that was really the thing that was the difference maker. And I feel like, to answer your question a little more thoroughly, I feel like I never saw that as possible before. You have to believe that it's possible, because you'll never get started. You'll never get started on Dave Ramsey's baby steps. You'll never start inching up your 401k contribution if you don't see what the end and what the future could be.
How tough was it? Because you said at one point, the examples that you saw were you put on a credit card, pay for it later. And now you shifted to full on debt payoff mode. How much of a mental shift was it for you to make in regards to your spending habits? Because you were accustomed to spending money a certain way, and now you have to rethink and readjust how you interacted with money. Talk to us about that process.
Oh man, it was hard. There's no way around it. It was, and I still made mistakes. I still did some things that I had did in the past. So I love to travel, and I am all about a flight deal. So for example, like last October, I convinced some friends to go to Europe with me. I found a $400 flight through United from San Antonio, which is unheard of. Usually you have to go to Houston or Austin or Dallas, but from San Antonio to Paris. And I was like, it's $400, guys, let's just do it. So it was like things like that, even though I'm being frugal about it and being like setting my Google flight notifications and following the points guy and different Instagram accounts for flight deals, like I scaled back. I wasn't as impulsive as I had been in the past. And then I would also say that, like, moving from Atlanta, I feel like when I was in Atlanta, it was not necessarily keeping up with the Joneses, but moving to Texas, especially San Antonio, Texas, is a lot more laid back. And I didn't feel the need to have to go out and buy X amount of clothes for this event, and for work, we dress casually. So it's like, and I honestly became a bit of a homebody. Besides like traveling, I didn't go out that much. So those type of behavioral changes, like just simply saying no, like I don't want to go to happy hour today because I know I'm going to spend $50 that wasn't already etched out in my budget. So there were a lot of little things. And Dave Ramsey teaches to stop your 401k until you paid off all your consumer debt except your home. And that's something I didn't do because USAA has an 8% match. And so that was money that it just didn't make sense. Like, no, I'm not going to do this. I love you, Dave. If you're going to listen to this, I do, but I just couldn't do that. And then we have, depending on your age, there's X amount more at the end of the year they throw into your 401k as well. So, I just didn't want to leave that free money on the table. Even if I was able to pay off my student loan debt and the other debts within 2 years, I just did those calculations and I just felt like that was money I didn't want to leave behind. So a lot of little things. And then there were setbacks too. So last February, I started having some stomach pains. I was really bloated. I didn't really know what was wrong. Went to the emergency room. I went to the emergency room 2 days in a row, and they just really couldn't identify what it was. So long story short, after seeing a couple specialists, I ended up going into an emergency surgery and had a mass that had been growing on my appendix taken out, as well as my appendix and a part of my colon. And because of my insurance, thankfully, you know, that was $120,000 that I didn't have to pay myself. I just paid my deductible. But I was in the hospital for a week and then home for another 5 weeks. And that really felt like a setback. Okay, gosh, this is $4,000 that I had not budgeted, that I didn't have, you know, just sitting around. And so I could have allowed that to discourage me, but still, a year later, I was able to pay off my debt. The other thing was I had paid off my car like 3 weeks before all of that happened. So it's like, you know, the devil is busy, you know. So I did my best not to, with, you know, being surrounded by family and friends and people that encouraged me and even coworkers, I didn't allow that to throw me off the path to paying everything off.
I love that. I love how, and we teach this again, personal finance is that it's personal. And you felt the need to invest in your 401k. I mean, you got an 8% return. You did
free money.
And I'm like, I mean, we tell people, you don't necessarily have to watch the way that one person may do it or even how they teach it. The key is to come up with a plan and let's just work the plan.
Yeah.
Let's get out of debt. You know, we talk to people who use the avalanche method, where they didn't do the debt snowball. They paid the highest interest rate debt first.
Just do something.
Just start. If you're listening to this, just start. I think so many people get caught up in all of the different factors that go into possibly paying off debt that they never even start. They don't even accomplish it and get to it. So kudos to you for that. Talk about your family and friends. Did they know that you were on this journey? How was the conversation? What did you tell them? How did you prepare your family? In case we have others listening, you know, and they may want to take this on. They may not know how to approach their family to let them know. What did you do?
So I was lucky and blessed to have a very supportive family and circle of friends. I didn't tell a ton of people. I shared a little bit on Instagram and with some friends, you know, when I hit a milestone, but I didn't, you know, I wasn't that person saying, I'm sorry, I can't come to your wedding. I'm doing this debt thing. Like I didn't preach it from the rooftops like that. But my mom, I mean, she's been one of my biggest supporters, and she's very, I mean, she knows like some of her bad habits, you know, unintentionally kind of rubbed off on my sister and I. But we're learning and growing together. And when I got my new job and 4 years ago and moved to San Antonio, one of the things I did with my signing bonus, my sister and I pooled our money together and paid off my mom's car. And so that was something that, you know, was a sacrifice for us, for all of the sacrifices she had done for us, you know, growing up. And so she knows like what she instilled in us, the hard work and the values, and her spending behavior. And she talks about, oh, I'm listening to Dave Ramsey today and I thought about you. You know, it's rubbing off on her and other family members. My Aunt Ethel, her younger sister, actually bought Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. Oh man, I think I was in high school or in college at the time, for everyone in our family, because, you know, he does like the little $10 deal, and you can buy a larger amount of books for a cheaper price. And when I tell you that book sat like through like 6 moves, like on a bookshelf for years, I had never cracked it open. And I still feel bad about that, but I mean, she was trying to do the right thing and influence us, but I was just like, oh no, that's not for me. And it's just funny how things, are full circle. And
Yeah.
she was able to retire early, and is able to live comfortably because of Dave's principles and paying off her own debt. And so it's something that we try to talk about more as a family. It's something that shouldn't be taboo. And I think people think, I don't want people knowing my business. I don't want them knowing my debt. But when you open up, you just never know who you're going to encourage, and how your story and your mountain can serve as inspiration to another person. Thinking about some of my coworkers, I had a coworker I told him about what I was doing, and he was just like, yeah, my student loan debt, it's like at 3%. It's like, I can make more than that, investing and with my rental properties. Like, so it just sits there. He could afford to pay it off, but he just refused to. And then there's a lot of people, especially with, the upcoming political races, that I think that someone is just going to come and be a superhero and pay it off for them. And whether they can pay it off or not, they refuse to even think about it. And I think with my journey, even though I had a lot less debt, and especially student loan debt, than I know a lot of my peers from graduate school or their doctorates or even undergrad had. I think that it served as a point of inspiration and motivation to say, you can just start. Even if someone pays off some of it later, or you are doing the service program, or you have to work for a certain industry or something for 10 years and it'll be paid off, like, it's still there, and it's your debt that you decided to sign up for. So you have to take personal responsibility and figure out how to get rid of it. And I think I've motivated a lot of people around me, but if I didn't have my family and friends cheering me on, I don't know if I would have been able to pay it off as quick as I did, and also at all. So their support definitely mattered.
Now, one of the things you did was you said you started a side hustle, and people know they should cut back on their expenses and they know they should increase their income, but they're not sure what they can do like for a side hustle. So talk to us about the process that you went through to figure out what would be a good side hustle, because your side hustle isn't necessarily in your situation. It isn't related to what you do from a 9-to-5 perspective. So talk to us about the process that you went through to figure out what would be a good side hustle for you.
But let me just add this. I think too, a lot of times people don't start a business while getting out of debt, whether it be a side hustle or a literal business, is because they look at the cost. They look at, it's going to cost money and this is going to take me away from getting out of debt.
True.
You were able to start a business while getting out of debt, right? Or did you start it a year prior to getting out of debt? So talk about that whole story. Talk about the financial side of it. Did you bootstrap it, or talk about all of that, how you started your business?
Okay, yeah. So I started it before I really started the 25-month plan, but at the same time, it was fuel to me understanding, like, hey, this is possible. Like, you're making more money with your 9-to-5 income, and you could certainly pay it off with that, but here's extra money that is just that extra money that you will not touch, that you will not shop with or travel with, that can be, more shovels to get you out of, to dig you out of this hole. So I moved to San Antonio in February 2015, and then after selling my house in Atlanta, the apartment life wasn't for me. I was like, no, I'm ready to buy another house. And so I bought my house at close the end of 2015. And then in January, like, I had been hoarding all of this furniture and buying things and like gearing up to move in. And so in January, like a week after I closed, the whole house was like decorated, like new furniture, rugs, like it was a flipped house, so it looked brand new on the inside. But it was truly a blank canvas. And so I was able to decorate and design every room within a week. And so then my mom and sister came to visit, and they just kind of looked around and they were like, we were expecting to see boxes and sleep on, air mattresses, and no, you have everything like decked out. And so my mom and sister and I have this like written on a post-it in my office. They were just like, so when are you going to do this for real? And I just took that as, well, what do you mean do this for real? And my mom's always like, I just never saw you working for anyone else. I know you want to climb the corporate ladder, and that's just, what you've always dreamed of doing. But I just felt like she saw me being very creative and painting and drawing and doing all of these things at an early age. And she just felt like I was always going to take the entrepreneurial route. And my sister, the same thing. And they've always encouraged that. And so I just felt like, even after taking an entrepreneurship class when I was pursuing my MBA, I just felt like, this isn't for me. This is too much responsibility, the finances and all of that. And then I like my benefits and my insurance with my corporate job. Like, that's just not something I'm interested in. And so they continue to push me. And then I had two friends that visited after that kind of did the same thing and said, you should at least blog about this. Like, you bought this new house, you decorated it in a week. It looks great. It looks like somebody came in here and staged it perfectly for, House Beautiful or Domino or Apartment Therapy. Like, you should at least blog about it and see where it goes. And so I spent 2 months. I found someone to do my logo. I came up with a name. It's a little 1948 bungalow in San Antonio. And so, between my faith and, just trying to think about a cute little name, Blessed Little Bungalow just came in my head, and I liked how it sounded. And so, BLB, that's what I call it for short, but was able to get the logos made and worked with a web designer in Dallas to build my website, and got a local photographer to take photos of me and photos of the home. And 3 months later, on April 4th, 2016, I launched my website, and it started off with just blog posts about my own house. And then people started reaching out to me about helping them figure out budget-friendly solutions to decorate their homes. So I've had not just local clients in San Antonio, but throughout Texas, back where I'm from, South Carolina, where my sister lives, in Charlotte, in Atlanta, Brooklyn, New York. Like, I've had clients from across the country seek out my help, and it's been great. It's been a great ride. Like, the creative bucket that I don't fill at work, I fill and I get that joy from my interior design business, so much so that it doesn't feel like work. And there's a little bit of an imposter syndrome. It's like, oh, you're just decorating. Like, you didn't go to school for this. Like, can I be on that level with those designers that I admire and follow and love? But it's truly about the experience and changing the way someone looks at their home and allowing them to feel comfortable in it and fall in love with it. And so that's what I've been doing as a side hustle. And I just allow all that cash to pile up in my PayPal account that I invoice through. And one day I saw it was like $10,000 in there. And I was just like, oh, okay. And then just threw it at the student loan.
That's amazing. So first you have to give us, because everybody wants to now go check out your website. Give us the domain. What's your URL?
Yeah, it's Blessed Little Bungalow, all one word, .com. So okay. Blessed Little Bungalow. And then on Instagram it's at Blessed Little Bungalow, Facebook.com/Blessed Little Bungalow. I'm on Pinterest. If you want to contact me, you can do so through social media or directly on my website. And yeah, check out my story and my portfolio on my site. I'd love to hear your feedback.
We will definitely make sure that we include the links in the description box below. So I want to dig a little bit deeper because I love the whole entrepreneur side. That's too something that we teach, that you can find ways to earn extra money and even build wealth via starting some type of business or side hustle. And so I heard you mention all these different places and all these different states that you don't live in, but you have clients in. So talk about the model that you use because I'm assuming that, again, you said budget friendly. I love that. You said that you do budget friendly interior decorating. So talk about, are you having to spend your own cash? What does the overhead necessarily look like? Are you doing virtual consultations? Like, what's the whole process?
So I'd say to start the business, I didn't have, like, I definitely could have just designed my own page on my Squarespace, but I sought out someone to do it for me once I got started. And I feel like that's one thing with being an entrepreneur or starting a business or whatever. You have to realize, like, okay, even if you can do it, sometimes it's easier to outsource it. It's like time is money, and that's time and
We've learned that.
resources that you can spend elsewhere. So so I paid, for my photography, for my Squarespace domain and hosting, my web designer, logos. But I mean, all of that, honestly, I don't think cost me more than like $1,500 to start. And then and that was around the time I got my tax refund. So to me, it was like, oh, you already have this anyway, so it's not like you're going to in your pocket. So I use that for my startup costs. And then as far as like my business model, e-design is a big deal. I think in the industry, where people can pay a couple $100s to get back a layout of what their room or space could look like, furniture, like a shopping list, color schemes, paint colors, all of those things. And so I looked at how those were priced in the industry and then thought, oh, well, little old me, I'm just starting out, so I can't charge that, maybe a little less. And then I also thought, well, I enjoy shopping. Like, if you go on my Instagram, you'll see that I'm in Home Goods like every week.
I love that store.
And or Target or wherever, and some people just they kind of have an idea of what they want and what they're looking for, but they just want help. They just want somebody next to them that's going to tell them, yes, these two patterns would be fine, or these textures, and oh no, well, if you're going to keep this color wood, you don't want to go with that. They just want someone to boost their confidence and help them build out what they're imagining in their head, but they don't feel like they can do themselves. And so I also have a shopping/install hourly fee. So I can build the design for you, and that could be, that's X amount of dollars. But if you want me to go to Hobby Lobby with you and Target and World Market or whatever for 6 hours on the weekend, then you can just pay for that. I have a client that I helped recently that just wanted me to come in and stage her house to sell. As a military family, they're about to move halfway across the country, and they just wanted some help with some of the things that they already have in their home, but also buy a couple of things to fill in the blanks. And between 2 weekends, we were able to knock that out. So it's really, I have a standard set of services, but I have a virtual or phone conversation or in-person conversation. I have a questionnaire that I can send out and just kind of understand from the client, what you're looking for and how can I build my services around you to solve your problem, to be a solution and help you love your home. So it's been a wild ride. It's crazy to think I've been doing it for 3 years. I still feel like I have so much to learn and space to grow. But of course I have a 9-to-5 too. So there's only so many hours in the day. But yeah, I travel to see clients as well as, just work exclusively virtual. So if you only want to email and text, then that's fine. If you want to talk on the phone and FaceTime or have me fly out to see you, then that works too. So
love that.
It's been super fun.
Love that. Awesome. So any interior designer wannabes, and maybe you love watching HGTV and things like that, and you did not know how to get started, she just pretty much told you exactly what she did and how she does it.
Sure.
So thank you for sharing that.
So talk to us. You put in all this work on your 9-to-5. You put in all this work with your business. You curbed your spending. And then that day finally came where you were able to make the very last debt payment. So for the people listening who are wondering what that feels like, what that experience was all about, can you kind of describe that day to us?
Yeah, so like I said, we get annual bonuses, and I knew that with the next bonus check, I would be able to pay off the debt, the last debt, which was my student loan. And I refinanced it with SoFi 2 years prior. I refinanced it for 5 years, and so honestly, I just felt like, well, I could shoot for 2 years, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So when the moment finally came, it was just such a lift off of my shoulders. Even though I felt like, oh, you can afford these payments, you can pay this off eventually. There's just something about not owing anybody anything. Like, yes, I still have my house, and I'm going to, either get on a plan to pay that off quickly, or honestly, I miss my family on the East Coast where I am now. So I might end up selling it and moving back sooner than later. But there's just something about, like, say I wanted to do this interior design thing full time. Like, now I feel like it's truly possible. Like, I can build my nest egg and plan accordingly, and I don't have to worry about that $39,000 of debt or the full $89,000 of debt that's keeping me from building a plan to achieve that dream. And I just, it's a great feeling. It was honestly a little anticlimactic, because I'm just like, okay, this is great, but now it's the next thing. Now you have to work on your savings. But knowing that that next month came and I didn't have to make a payment, it's a priceless feeling, and all the work was well worth that moment.
Love it. Love it.
So we're happy that you were able to come on and share this incredible journey with us, and to know that you set out on a goal and you beat it.
Great
because
job.
You said you thought maybe it would take 5 years or so, and you ended up doing it in 25 months. It just goes to show you that, like you said earlier, just get started. And so we're super proud of you for doing this work, and we're appreciative of you for coming on the show and sharing this with our audience today.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you all, and thank you for being such an inspiration and sharing the wealth and stories like mine. I appreciate it.